Welcome back to another edition of the Big Blue Breakdown as we go through the New York Giants' three key matchups for their Monday night road game against the New England Patriots in Foxborough. Yes, the New England Patriots, who enter the weekend as the number one seed in all of the NFL, not just the AFC, but they've got a 10-2 record. They have won 9 consecutive games. And quarterback Drake Maye, in only his second year, is certainly a viable MVP candidate. Things have gone extremely well for head coach Mike Vrabel and the Patriots. On the flip side, well, the Giants, as you know, they have lost 6 in a row. They are now 2-10 on the season. In fact, it's almost been exactly the opposite of what's happened to New England, even though the Giants have played well enough to easily be a 6-6 football team. But that's not the reality. They are 2-10, and they've got Jaxson, their rookie quarterback, coming out of concussion protocol after he missed 2 games, 2 games in which the Giants once again squandered fourth quarter leads. But he's back in there now, even though Jameis Winston played well in those 2 games and continued to get the offense moving and scoring points. In fact, the Giants have now scored a minimum of 20 points in 7 straight games, which certainly is something to be happy about if you are the front office and the coaching staff. The problem is defensively, they have continued to be a wreck. Not only has their season cost head coach Brian Daboll his job, as interim head coach Mike Kafka has already taken over. In addition to that, the Giants are now looking at a new defensive coordinator as Shane Bowen has been dispatched, and outside linebackers coach Charlie Bullen is now in charge of the Giants defense. He'll make his debut as a defensive coordinator at any level, calling plays in this game Monday night. Now, what Coach Kafka did for Bullen to help him get acclimated just a bit was they allowed him to run live practice plays during the course of practice this week so that he could actually get in the habit of making some calls. We'll see how the communication goes in this game on Monday night. Right now, it's just too early to tell. We do know that Bullen has had an awful lot of experience on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, at 41 years old, he has been around the NFL for a bit, and it just remains to be seen how it's going to work. He is hinting at how he is going to be more aggressive. He knows he can't change things entirely, but he certainly can tweak them. He inherits a defense. The New York Giants are 30th in the NFL with 28 points allowed. They are dead last in yards per carry against the run at over 5.9 yards per carry. In fact, it's even closer to 6. It has been very difficult for this team. And obviously, we are all well aware of the very devastating fact that they have 5 losses in which they have had at least a 10-point lead, tied for the most in a single NFL season all time by any franchise. And their 5 losses with a fourth quarter lead this year comes into the weekend tied for the most in the NFL with, believe it or not, the Arizona Cardinals. Somebody else has actually found ways to blow fourth quarter games equally to the New York Giants this season. I know that's amazing, but it actually has happened. The New England Patriots, on the other hand, well, they are 6th overall in scoring defense, giving up only 19 points per game. One of the reasons is that they've done a very good job in terms of their turnover ratio. They are even, which, as you know, if you're in the negative like the Giants are at -6, that is going to significantly hinder your chances. If you want to look overall at the defensive metrics of the New England Patriots, 8th in first downs allowed, 7th in third down conversions in terms of success rate against an offense, 8th in total net yards allowed per game and only 300. Yards rushing. Teams only rushing for less than 90 yards a game against this Patriots defense. Now, part of the reason is they have trouble keeping up with the New England offense, which has really done a good job of taking advantage of their opportunities when Drake Maye wings that ball downfield, he certainly is able to make a lot of big plays and score some points, even though the Patriots are definitely weak in the red zone. Yards passing per game, the Pats giving up almost 215 yards through the air a game. That only ranks 17th in the NFL. That's where they're, quote, mediocre. Their other very important negative stat is red zone defense. They're actually worse than the Giants. They are dead last in the NFL. Yes, they are 32nd by allowing a touchdown on 73% of the opponent's opportunities in the red zone. Pretty amazing that they actually could have a 10-2 record when their red zone numbers on both sides of the ball, on offense only 55%, that is 20th in the NFL. With those numbers, it just doesn't seem to make sense, right? But here's what they do. They score outside the red zone very, very well. In fact, they are tied. They are 7th coming into this week with 26 points a game offensively. You don't do that by failing in the red zone. You do that from scoring outside the red zone. They fundamentally play very sound football. They've only had 11 drops offensively this season, which is a terrific number, nice and low, one of the fewest in the league. Also tied for second in the NFL defensively with the fewest missed tackles at only 45 missed tackles over the course of 12 games. So the Patriots have been doing things very cleanly, if you will. They've been fundamentally sound, and especially when it comes time with penalties. They are 18th in terms of most penalties flagged. 88 penalties flagged against them, which also is below the watermark. Look at the Giants, third most penalties called against the Giants, 110 over the course of the season. So you see, it's these kinds of things, missed tackles, dropped passes, penalties, and obviously making plays in the clutch. Those things that the Giants have absolutely failed at in so many instances. Well, those are categories where the Patriots haven't failed, and consequently, they've built up this 10-2 record despite being horrendous in the red zone. So that's just a quick general overview. Yes, the Patriots are coming off of a 26-20 win in Cincinnati against the Bengals. Again, that was their 9th victory in a row. They haven't lost since being dropped by the Pittsburgh Steelers in Foxborough 21-14. They also had lost their opening game at home, believe it or not. They started off 0-2 at Gillette Stadium when the Raiders beat them in week 1, 20-13. But since that time period, they have been great. Those 2 losses are the only times during the course of this season where the Patriots scored fewer than 23 points in a game. That's how consistent they have been. Simply put, they don't play sloppy football. And it goes back to Tom Coughlin's mantra: more games in this league are lost than they are won. Well, the Patriots don't lose games. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. So let's take a look at just some generic numbers between these two teams before we get to our very specific 3 key matchups to watch. We all know how good Drake Maye is. I don't even think I need to go over too many of his numbers, but just suffice it to say, so far this season, he has had 8 multi-touchdown pass games. He's just been dynamite. He burned New Orleans and Cleveland with 3 touchdown passes apiece. He leads, or tied going into this weekend, for the NFL lead with 45 completions of 20 or more yards. Remember what I told you before about throwing deep and about scoring from outside the red zone? Well, that's the number that you need to keep in mind there. He does lead the NFL already, 3,100 plus yards through the air. Also tops with a 70 1% completion percentage, fourth in touchdown throws at 21. Now, having said all of that, you want to look at some of the downside. He has thrown an interception of 4 of his past 5 games, and he got sacked 6 times by the Cleveland Browns and 6 times by the Atlanta Falcons. And they've got an issue on offense this week because their starting left tackle, Will Campbell, is out with an MCL. Their starting left guard, Jared Wilson, is out with a high ankle sprain. And the left side of their offensive line, quite frankly, has not been that good anyway during the course of this season. In fact, between Campbell and Wilson, they have allowed 16 of the Patriots sacks. They've given up 37 on the year, 16 by those 2 guys on the left side. So you're looking at former Viking Vidarian Lowe, who is a journeyman. Last year, got called flagged for 13 penalties and gave up 5 sacks. He's a former Minnesota Viking. And Ben Brown is going to be the guard. Lowe is going to be the left tackle. Ben Brown will be the left guard. Last year, Brown mostly played center for the Pats. Only gave up a sack and a half, but he is a former undrafted rookie free agent who's been with 5 different organizations over his 4 seasons in the NFL. So it's a patchwork offensive line on the left side that Maye is going to have to operate with. The other significant Patriot injury, by the way, is right outside linebacker, pass rusher Harold Landry. He's got 6.5 sacks, tied for the team lead this year. He is questionable with a sore knee. On the Giants side of things, Kayvon Thibodeau is out. He has a sore shoulder. But we told you before, Jaxson Dart is coming back from the concussion protocol. He is expected to start, and the Giants are no longer listing Dexter Lawrence, who had missed some practice time this week, missed some snaps last week with an aggravated elbow injury. They are saying that Dexter Lawrence is good to go and is going to play on Friday night. So that's where a bunch of generic things stand going into this game. Let's talk about some specific matchups, and we're going to start with Travion Henderson, the terrific running back for the Pats, who has been getting more and more playing time. In fact, over the past month, he's had quite a bit of playing time against Giants middle linebacker Bobby Okereke. We're not going to mention Dexter Lawrence here because we really don't know how many snaps he's going to play, if he'll be spelled a whole lot, and maybe DJ Davidson is going to have a bunch of snaps. Okereke's tied for 4th in the NFL with 103 tackles, total tackles on the season. He's certainly done a good job getting that number up there. The problem is the Giants are still getting gouged at 6 yards a carry. And we saw what happened with Jahmyr Gibbs last week when he ran for over 200 yards. It has not been a pretty sight for the Giants. And when you're talking about Travion Henderson, you're also talking about a guy who has really picked up his game since he has added to his snap count. Since week 9, he's averaging about 20 touches a game and about 100 plus yards from scrimmage a game and over 5 yards a touch. He has been terrific. Monday Stevenson went out with a toe injury, and that was really what gave Henderson the opportunity to start picking up his pace. He's got 5 scrimmage touchdowns since week 10 and has really been pouring on the juice. And so Henderson is going to be a big factor here as Drake Maye, as long as they can keep balanced with their attack, it's going to be extremely difficult to deal with him. Now, obviously, with that offensive line being nicked up and the number of sacks they've given up, if you make them one-dimensional, because Maye's good under pressure, but he's good under pressure when their offense is balanced. It's a little bit different if he's going to have to just throw, and come from behind. Stevenson, by the way, on the season, Henderson had runs of 69 and 55 yards. The 69-yarder was a touchdown. This huge game they had 3 weeks ago against Tampa Bay when Henderson rumbled 14 times for 147 yards and a couple of scores. He's run for 5 touchdowns on the season. So Henderson against Bobby Okereke is going to be our number one matchup to look for, where the Giants are just going to have to make sure they control him and make sure that they keep the Patriots trying to gain ground through the air more so than through their running game. You just don't want them to be balanced because Drake Maye can pick you apart. Now, in looking at that passing game, we're going to look at Cordell Flott and Drew Phillips for the Giants in their secondary against Kayshon Boutte, obviously, who has been terrific for them, and Stephon Diggs. Now, let's look at a couple of these numbers. Boutte crushed Las Vegas with 6 receptions for 103 yards, his only 100-yard game of the year, but he's averaging 18 yards a catch on 25 receptions, and he's got 5 touchdowns. He has really emerged as a terrific deep threat for them this year, and that's important because they're not getting deep plays out of Stephon Diggs. But I mentioned Flott and Phillips against Boutte and Diggs because, well, Diggs has still been very productive. He's got a couple of 300 to 300-yard games, in fact, on the course of the season. His best was against Buffalo, former Bills teammates, 10 grabs for 146 yards. Diggs is 11th in the NFL with 61 catches, 18th in the league at 679 receiving yards, but he's only averaging 11 yards a catch. His long is 33, and he's only got 3 touchdowns. But again, he keeps the chains moving for Drake Maye. And so what we're looking at is Flott on the outside, Phillips as the slot. Diggs is playing a lot of slot for the Patriots. Phillips has given up 3 touchdown catches on 45 grabs this year and a completion percentage of 69% on targeted throws at him. Cordell Flott, I don't want to jinx him, folks, but it's important to notice that he has not given up a touchdown pass this season. When throwing at him, quarterbacks are 29 of 56 for only 52%. He has truly improved more than any other Giants defensive player over the course of the last 4 years. So Flott and Phillips against Boutte and Diggs. The third key matchup to watch where the Giants really want to make some hay is Wan'Dale Robinson against slot corner Marcus Jones. Jones at 5'8", 190. He's a small, shifty guy. Obviously, so is Robinson. In his 4th year, you'll remember back in 2022, he made the Pro Bowl as a kick returner. Well, last week against Cincinnati, he returned an interception, 33 yards for a touchdown. But this year, on 40 completions, he has allowed 5 touchdown throws. That ought to be of interest to Wan'Dale Robinson. Now, Robinson, as you probably also know, over the last 2 weeks has played a lot more outside than he has in the slot. The Giants have tried to move him around some and given him more work on the boundary, and he's proven that he can handle it. Well, if it's going to be that way, you're looking at left cornerback Carlton Davis, who would then pick him up. So let's just say it's Marcus Jones and Carlton Davis against Wan'Dale Robinson, although it's not a double team, obviously. Davis has given up 4 touchdown passes on 45 completions as well this season. So if Wan'Dale Robinson continues his hot hand, this could be another really good game for him. We know he's had 200-yard games so far this season against Dallas early on, and then last week against Detroit, 9 receptions for 115 yards and 156 yards, and a score. He is 9th in the NFL in both receiving yardage and catches at 66 receptions for 794 yards. That's 12 yards a catch. He's finally gotten it up there after, you remember last year, he wasn't getting much at all, but he's starting to add up some yak yardage. He's got a long of 50, and he's had 3 touchdown grabs. So let's see if Wan'Dale Robinson, even though the last 2 weeks when he's really played well, he had Jameis Winston throwing him the ball, he'll have, obviously, Jaxson Dart throwing it to him this week. But let's see if Wan'Dale Robinson can somehow keep that wheel turning on his way to what would be potentially, now, I don't want to jinx him, his first 1,000-yard season since he was drafted by the New York Giants. So those are our three key matchups to watch, and we will see if those things can actually unfold. And the Giants, well, maybe they'll have a lead again in the fourth quarter. And maybe this time they'll be able to lock it down. That just remains to be seen, because you're going to have to tune in Monday night and find out. That'll do it for this edition of the Big Blue Breakdown. The three key matchups for the New York Giants in their game against the New England Patriots in Foxborough on Monday Night Football. Don't forget, we will be back on Tuesday morning with our complete breakdown of the offense, defense, and special teams performances by the New York Giants in the Game Balls and Dancers edition of the Big Blue Breakdown here on the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel and media network. Until next time, I'm Paul Dottino. We will see you then.